All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a man you might know as the father of Indian chemistry, Prafulla Chandra Ray. But that title, it honestly doesn't even begin to cover what this man was all about. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So get this quote, revolutionary in the garb of a scientist. Now, the wild part isn't the quote itself, but where it comes from. This wasn't written by one of his admirers or students. Nope. This was from official British government records. So you have to ask yourself, how on earth does a respected scientist, an academic, end up on the radar of the ruling empire as a revolutionary? That's the puzzle we're going to piece together today. And really, to get to the bottom of that quote, you've got to understand that P.C. Ray was so much more than just a chemist. His whole life was about wearing multiple hats, but they were all part of one big, overarching mission. I mean, look at this list. He was a chemist, sure, but also an educationist, an industrialist, a philanthropist, a historian, and a nationalist. And for him, these weren't separate jobs. They were all connected. You see, his chemistry, that was fuel for Indian industry. His teaching, that was about creating a whole new generation of leaders. Every single one of these roles, the businessman, the teacher, the writer, it all served one powerful driving idea, nationalism. So let's go back to the beginning. He was born in 1861 in British India, and that passion for learning, it started really early. His dad was a progressive thinker, totally into modern education, and P.C. Ray himself was deeply influenced by his own teachers, especially the famous nationalist Surendranath Banerjee. Banerjee's ideas about serving the nation, well, they became Ray's life's mission. But, Ray quickly figured out that just having passion wasn't going to be enough. He believed India's future, its very independence, hinged on scientific advancement. And that belief, it sent him on an incredible journey, thousands of miles away from home, straight into the scientific heart of Europe. And his path was, well, meteoric. In 1881, he's totally captivated by chemistry lectures. The very next year, boom, he wins the super prestigious Gilchrist Prize Scholarship. So in 1882, at just 21 years old, he's on a ship to the UK, enrolling at the University of Edinburgh. And he didn't just scrape by, he absolutely crushed it. By 1887, he's awarded a DSc, a Doctorate of Science, for his thesis. Just amazing. But here's the thing. Even while he was deep in his studies in the UK, that nationalist fire was burning bright. He enters this essay competition, right? The topic was India before and after the mutiny. And his submission wasn't some dry academic paper. No, it was a powerful, no-holds-barred critique of the British Raj, warning them about their policies. It was so sharp, so well-written, that it got praise from university bigwigs and even got noticed by a major British politician, John Bright. All right, let's get to the science, because this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. After he comes back to India and starts teaching, a complete accident, a chance observation in his lab, leads to the one discovery that would make him famous around the world. So, the star of the show here is a compound called mercurous nitrite. Now, you don't need to be a chemist to get this, but back then, everyone knew that nitrites were super unstable. They just fell apart. But what P.C. Ray did was create a version of it that was stable, a yellow crystalline solid that just stayed that way. It was something that basically went against everything the textbook said. And the way he found it is just a classic science story. First, the experiment. He's just reacting some mercury with nitric acid. Pretty standard stuff. But then, the observation. He leaves it overnight, comes back, and sees these weird little yellow crystals. Now think about it. Most people would have just tossed it, right? Contaminated sample. But not Ray. He gets curious, he investigates, and that's when he realizes he's stumbled onto something brand new, a stable form of mercurous nitrate. And this was a huge deal. It wasn't just some neat little lab trick. His findings get published in the prestigious journal Nature. This one discovery basically kicks off a whole new field of research into nitrites, both for him and for his students. It puts him on the international map and earns him that awesome title from its peers, the Master of Nitrites. But here's the crucial part about P.C. Ray. For him, the discovery itself was never the end game. He came back to India with a kind of elixir, you could say. And it wasn't a chemical potion. It was a blueprint for how to use science to build a strong, independent nation. So how do you do that? How do you turn lab knowledge into real national power? Well, for Ray, step one was industry. He founded Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals. And you have to understand what a massive deal this was. This was India's first ever pharmaceutical company. It was a direct, practical step towards economic self-reliance, breaking free from British control. And this really shows you his genius two-part strategy. On one side, you have the entrepreneur, the industrialist, literally building a company from the ground up to make India self-reliant. And on the other side, you have the mentor, the educator, founding the Indian School of Chemistry to make sure there was a pipeline of brilliant minds to lead the way in the future. And his dedication to mentoring was just incredible. I mean, get this. After 1921, he donated his entire salary back to Calcutta University to support research. Every last penny. He wasn't just building buildings, he was investing in people. And look at the payoff. His students included absolute giants of science, names you might know like Sachendranath Bose and Meghnad Saha. He even put on his historian hat. He dove into ancient Sanskrit texts to write this huge 2-volume work called A History of Hindu Chemistry. And the goal here wasn't just academic. It was about building pride. It was his way of saying, hey, modern science is our future, but let's not forget we have a deep, brilliant scientific heritage that goes back centuries. So when you put it all together, what do you get? Yeah, Father of Indian Chemistry is a great title, and it's well-deserved. But his true legacy, the sheer scale of his impact, is really captured in the recognition he got from, well, pretty much everyone. And the honors he received really tell the story. First, get the irony of this. He was knighted by the British Crown, the same government that had him on a watch list as a revolutionary. At home, his peers honored him as a Foundation Fellow of India's National Institute of Sciences. And then, way later, the Royal Society of Chemistry in the UK awarded his lab a chemical landmark plaque, the first one they ever gave to a place outside of Europe. That shows you the respect he commanded everywhere. But if you want to understand the man's core philosophy, his driving force, it all comes down to this one powerful quote from him. Science can wait, but Swaraj cannot. Swaraj, self-rule, independence, that was everything. That was the ultimate goal. Every experiment in the lab, every product from his factory, every student he taught, it was all in service of that one single idea. In the end, P.C. Ray didn't just discover a new chemical compound. He kind of discovered a new kind of scientist. He proved you could be an industrialist, an educator, and a revolutionary all at once. And that leaves us with a pretty big thought, doesn't it? What if the greatest discoveries we can make aren't just new elements, but entirely new ways to build a nation?